for almost the only time this weekend. He's been really plagued with reliability issues. Part throttle, part throttle. There we go. Now we launch it with Oscar Piastri starting his first time lap. Top battery is depleting and depleting as Oscar blends out. It does have a little bit of a clip in towards the first corner, and let's hopefully ride on board through this, because this is a buzz now through turn 3. Feather downshift. Short shift to 6th and then picking 7th pretty quickly as the MG UK kicks in and we head towards the Degners. Look really sedate, and he's just knocked out the fastest first sector by half a second.
By a mile. Not sedate on the exit of the second Degner. Live speeds for you as he makes his way into the hairpin. The Australian driver hoping tomorrow to start his first Grand Prix since December the 7th. Into the wall on the reconnaissance lap in Melbourne. Was not able to take the starting grid in China. And hoping to continue what has been, because of the issues, because of the loss of track time for his teammate Lando Norris, a really strong weekend for Piastri, who has topped a session up against the Mercs yesterday and looked good battling Charles Leclerc for what could be the second row later on. He's the second up on Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, McLaren hoping to fight it with Ferrari and out-qualify them to give themselves the shot at mixing it with the Mercedes at the start of the race tomorrow. We're expecting the Mercedes to be in an intra-team battle for pole position once again. Piastri comes through and puts a reasonable benchmark down then for a top team, a 30.4. Mercedes were considerably quicker than that, well into the lower reach of the 29s earlier on, but that will come to these drivers as well as the track grips up. Norris through 2/10 down. We mentioned before, catching up on a lot of mileage. ERS, battery issues for him earlier on. He's had hydraulic problems as well through the weekend, and 2/10 down is a decent start point.
Over the line comes Lewis Hamilton to split the McLarens. Hamilton wearing a white crash helmet for the Japanese Grand Prix weekend, a race he's won 4 times in his Formula One career. Charles Leclerc round the final corner now, that tight line that we've become used to, and a tidy first effort, 0.3 of a second, ahead of Oscar Piastri, and it's a 1:30.0. It is Leclerc, Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, then Bortoleto ahead of Hulkenberg, Ocon, Lindblad, and Alex Albon to the Mercedes pair. And our most recent Grand Prix winner, heading into turn number 1, Kimi Antonelli, the 116th winner in World Championship history, last time out in China.
So flat out through 1, just using the super clip as basically a braking tool then into the first corner, and he picks a downshift through there. So you can see him wrestling with the car a little bit more than Piastri was in this first sector as well. Hustling through a little bit more on the what appears to be the limit of grip. Leclerc's done the fastest first sector of anyone in the Ferrari. That car is still very quick through the corners, but missing on the straights, the Ferrari, compared to the Mercedes power units in the back of this car and Piastri's McLaren. Almost ran through the gravel, didn't he, in the exit of Degner 2. Will hug the inside and sweep around the Audi. That was Bortoleto there that we've gone past as we head towards Spoon. Another car in front. So a little bit of traffic as Fernando Alonso jumps out of the way there.
Kimi Antonelli with 1 Grand Prix pole position. He's been on the front row on 3 occasions, being compared to the driver who's currently in 16th place. Not a great early effort for Oliver Behrman, who's been very comfortable this year in Formula One and made Q3 here 1 year ago. Antonelli goes over the line and goes fastest of anyone so far by 0.04 of a second. George Russell with the next effort. He's out of the 130 arc into the triangle chicane at the end of the lap, and then deploying all the power, the fearsome power from that Mercedes. And he comes across the line, and he's 5th fastest, half a second adrift of his teammate's effort.
Yeah, not particularly happy with the brakes on that opening lap, George Russell. So he's well down, but safely enough through in Q1. And the field spread means that the top teams generally have an easier time. I am looking through and seeing that Bortoleto's done a great job. The 2 Red Bulls up in 6th and 8th. Hadjar slightly ahead of Verstappen, actually, on that first flyer as well. Audi's looking good. You can see Hulkenberg picture-in-picture on another flying lap. And actually, they're all 7/10 away to the top 10. So it is a little bit closer right now. I feel Mercedes have got a bit more in the locker to lay down as we get through this qualifying. A lot of curb and a small slide between the apexes of the chicane for Norris.
Yeah, Norris going again purely because he's on the back foot, because the amount of time lost with mechanical issues so far this weekend. There's an ERS issue for him earlier on, cost him 40 minutes of the final practice session. It's Antonelli, Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, and now 5th for Nico Hulkenberg, who seems to have a great feel behind the wheel in the first Audi visit to Suzuka. Stroll getting past.
Yeah, something doesn't feel quite right. I've got a load of oversteer.
Yeah, we can see surface temperatures out of balance.
Really odd. But then feels aerodynamical. No rear.
Okay, so Russell, rear grip then, and aerodynamical, just feeling like the rear is just floating around and you don't feel glued to the road. And these sort of corners here are exactly the sort of ones where you'd feel that, the high speed. So Marcus Dudley on the radio saying, okay, we'll have a look at various things, and George saying, no, it feels like maybe something's not working aerodynamical, if something's broken or they've lost the sweet spot of the car. He's still done an okay lap to ease the nerves in the last run of this Q1 session, but work to do.
Hamilton with a very solid first sector of the racetrack. He's up on Kimi Antonelli. That's why we've joined him. Valtteri Bottas, previous occupant of the front row here in 2018, looking to avoid the back row today, and is doing so at the moment. 19th, out-qualifying the Aston Martins and his teammate Sergio Perez as it stands. Hamilton did have the fastest first sector of anyone so far. Charles Leclerc has that now in the first part of the racetrack. We're into Spoon Curve with Lewis Hamilton.
The two Ferraris already were very quick in the first sector, and they've nudged that time down even more. It's the middle sector now where they need to try and hold on to it. Hamilton will have a little bit of a tow there for Bortoletto to help him out, but you can see no personal best there, and 3/10 down now on Antonelli. So once again, the time going away from Hamilton. He's well wide of that first curb and generally not taking as much curb through the final chicane as most others. That's been the case for Lewis all weekend. Doesn't slow him down too much, though. Still quick through that final sector. Let's see Charles Leclerc, his teammate.
It's the joy of this racetrack. Different lines, different approaches. It all adds up to a spectacular sight. Charles Leclerc, fastest of anyone so far, with 5 minutes to go in qualifying. In the drop zone, Alex Albon ahead of teammate Carlos Sainz. Valtteri Bottas ahead of teammate Sergio Perez. And Lance Stroll ahead of Fernando Alonso, the new father, currently the 22nd qualifier on the grid.
So Leclerc has done his best lap of the weekend so far. But as a reminder, Antonelli earlier on did a 29.3. So Mercedes hiding a little bit right now. I'd suggest to be in the pack with everyone else. Russell's come through the pits and has gone out again. We'll see if that's a new set of tyres, if they're having to be cautious, and that'll affect him later on. Will he be able to just stay on that first set with the confidence of their pace? And we've got our usual 6 at the bottom. Alex Albon, very close to the pace of those ahead, though. So Williams maybe will think if they can hook up the perfect lap, they can get through ahead of a Colapinto. Hassel at the moment slightly disappointing. But look, the field spread's encouraging, isn't it? This is the closest it's been so far in qualifying.
Yeah, it is indeed in Q1. It is a 3.6-mile circuit that runs to 18 corners. We're into 4 minutes on the clock now. Max Verstappen, a year ago, one of his very best efforts behind the wheel to take pole by 100th of a second with the benchmark lap in this track's history.
It's the sort of circuit a driver can make a significant difference in. The 3 sectors, just so many corners to piece together, threading it through the S's at the start of the lap. Still difficult, still tricky through there. Finding your line, attacking on the limit of oversteer has generally been the case, especially for the 2 Ferraris so far this weekend. The Degners, it's easy to get wrong. The hairpin in the middle, it's so easy to lock up, run wide. And then Spoon is just so error-inducing as well. The second part, washing wide there and missing your exit. or worse, spinning like Behrman or running wide into the gravel. Here is the man that took that stunning pole last year. Brake, stab through turn 4. Downshift and pick it up now, accelerating. Oh, fighting it through Dunlop.
Any fast hands through that part of the circuit can lead to a huge moment of consequence. Amazing speed you're carrying through there. Verstappen making those minute alterations as he fights the car.
He's really aggressive actually behind the wheel here. Some punchy inputs to try and get some rotation into the car. I think the stab of brakes, the quick downshifts at the apex, and then punching straight to throttle in between. It's nowhere near as flowing and calm as the McLaren was when we jumped on board with Oscar there earlier on. Max working hard at the wheel. Isaac Hadjar out there and improving as well. So Russell has gone again, as I said, and he's on the same set of tyres, as is Verstappen and Hadjar. So this is no new set.
So the majority of the field on outlaps. Verstappen going early. Improvement sector 1, improvement sector 2. Hadjar has a personal best in the first part of the lap, but he does not have an improvement in the second. George Russell, championship leader, is in the left-hand side of your screen. Max Verstappen improves his lap time. He's ahead of the Audi of Nico Hülkenberg and moves up to 6th position. Hadjar is next, the Frenchman across the line. He does not improve his lap time for the moment. George Russell, fastest middle sector, and he is 0.05 of a second behind Charles Leclerc and ahead of teammate Kimi Antonelli. The McLaren's on outlaps as well. And we will see whether Alex Albon, Carlos Sainz can do anything about Ocon, Behrman or Colapinto ahead.
And as I was bigging up his near 2-year reign over Lance Stroll, Stroll is up on Alonso into the final laps for Aston Martin as well. They're having such a bad weekend in terms of pace though. Running a little bit more reliably, but my word, they're slow. Down on the Cadillacs. The Cadillacs have got a second to make to a Williams as well. It's all tough times at the bottom, especially for Aston Martin. Here we go then, Albon on a final lap of Q1. Now, if these guys put together the perfect lap, they have a chance to make it through into Q2, which would be a real coup for a team struggling so much at the start of this year. Albon ringing it through the Degners. Personal best in the first sector. Personal best coming in everywhere else as well, though. That's the problem. The goal is about to be moving significantly as the new tyres go on.
Improvement for Esteban Ocon. They all require improvements to get out of the reaches of the Williams at the moment. Williams have made it through into the next part of qualifying on one occasion. That was back in Melbourne when Max Verstappen spun at the first turn. On equal laps, Williams have failed to progress a car through. And Alex Albon, Carlos Sainz trying to change that. Sainz with a good lap to give himself an opportunity. He's P13 right now.
So that's an early benchmark for Albon. You've at least got to get ahead of Sainz. So Lindblad responds and gets back ahead of the Williams. It's going to be Albon then to try and jump further up the field. It's all so close around that pace.
Albon does improve, but only improves to the brink. The bubble, 16th at threat, and plenty still on push laps behind. Lawson over the line, and Lawson goes to 9th.
Behrman is through and Behrman is out. So Ollie Behrman, having been a hero for the first 2 weekends of the year, is 17th and out behind Albon. Can Colapinto get himself through? Alonso gets ahead of Stroll.
Colapinto is on a personal best through the first sector. The Audis continue their excellent run around this circuit. P6 for Hülkenberg. And here is Bortoletto, who goes up to P7.
It's all on Colapinto v Albon at the bottom of the field. No one else will jump out of the order, but we can have an intra-team battle between Bottas and Perez as well to look out for Cadillac pride.
So Gasly gets up to 10th position. Behrman with no right of reply. Piastri going very quickly in the middle part of the lap. Colapinto finds the lap time. Franco Colapinto, fresh from returning to the points, has made it through. He's in 16th place, and it's Albon, Behrman, Perez, Bottas, Alonso getting ahead of Stroll to continue that streak, and Colapinto finds his way through with a high-pressure lap, and Alex Albon could not make it through, but Carlos Sainz becomes the second Williams to make it through into the second part of qualifying. The shock name, the driver, 5th in the World Championship, Oliver Bearman, the surprise in the first part of qualifying.
He improved his lap time, but not by enough, and Haas struggling for performance generally. Ocon 14th, just a 10th and a half up the road from his teammate. Had a spin earlier on and just thought he'd have a little bit more pace. Haas obviously nothing more to unlock at this stage, and Bearman, that is quite a shock in Q1.
Esteban Ocon with a 130.9, Oliver Bearman with a 131.0. Albon, Bearman, Perez, Bottas, Alonso and Stroll, the 6-4. At the front, Charles Leclerc ahead of George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, Oscar Piastri and Lewis Hamilton. Audi, in the week that their team principal departed, 6th and 7th ahead of Norris and Verstappen. Impressive lap times for them, going again and making it work. Alex Albon and his tough run in Formula One continuing for the time being. Not much between the Williams pair, 10th of a second between Sainz and Albon, but Sainz, after scoring points in China in the last Grand Prix, makes it through into Q2 for the first time in his Formula One season. Williams will be making a lot of use, according to the team, of the April break, the unexpected April break, where we should have run 2 Grand Prix, and instead we will be finding ourselves with the month off before we go racing again with a sprint race in Miami. So the Williams, the Haas, the 2 Cadillacs and the 2 Astons to fall.
Where was I to call us?
You probably don't want to know, but you can probably guess.
Yes. I complain for 3 races in a row that there's something wrong, but I'm sure it's my driving still.
He's not a happy camper, Alex Albon, and that's been the case since Bahrain pre-season testing. Not the season Williams were expecting. Charles Leclerc set the benchmark lap in Q1. The 6 cars to fall. Alex Albon, who's been on the radio saying that something he's been complaining about in the opening 3 weekends of the year, that apparently the feedback to him has been in his driving style, not the driving style, and his race engineer telling him where the gap was to Carlos Sainz, who's made it through. Oliver Bearman, a surprise. Had a spin in FP3 earlier on, but his form has been strong. That is a driver who made the top 10 here last year as well, but goes in the first section of qualifying. Sergio Perez out-qualifying Valtteri Bottas. Fernando Alonso out-qualifying Lance Stroll. At the front, Charles Leclerc with the benchmark, which is a 29.9. Mercedes faster than that earlier on in FP3.
Decent job from Perez to get ahead of Bottas. He's had some shortened running as well through this weekend. Valtteri's had a decent day yesterday. Checo's been playing catch-up and has managed to do a good job to win that Cadillac fight.
Let's check in with Alex Brundle for some analysis of why qualifying will continue without Ollie Bearman.
Qualifying lap would have been enough to put him through. Shall we have a little bit of a look and see if we can spot where they are for Oliver Bearman in a Haas which has been so strong throughout the year so far. He has scored points in every single racing session this year, but it's going to be very difficult to score another set from there. Looking at it, Sector 1 is really where it got away from Bearman. He was okay for the rest of the lap, so maybe a little bit of a mistake or not getting the car quite ready to deliver the lap in Q1.
Thank you, Alex. It's qualifying to set the grid for the 3rd Grand Prix of the year. And it's a special one. And Suzuka International Racing Course. Young and old making their way into the grandstands, and we have 16 cars remaining. Franco Colapinto found a lap time good enough to go through, along with Sainz, Ocon and Lindblad, who all improved on second runs there when they were under threat. Hadjar was 12th, then it was Lawson and Gasly the top 10.
Look at Charles Leclerc visualizing going through the S's at the start of the lap. Either that or he's just nodded off and he's just in a lovely swaying motion.
Wonderful catch there to see.
It's just a section that is about flow. And it is, there's not really a section like it on the calendar. You've seen it sort of medium speed to high speed, and the corners are, every single entry becomes mid-corner, the exit becomes an entry to the next corner, and then you're going through. It's one big snaking sequence through there. And if you miss the first part of, let's say, turn 3, you're stuffed. You're never going to pick it up through the remaining corners up towards 7. And it is all, and it's the same goes for any of those corners. You have to be just on the train tracks through there. You have to be carrying the right bit of speed at the right time through each entry, mid-corner, exit phase. And it's so critical to the lap time, the first sector.
How does it compare to Maggots and Beckett's at Silverstone, or say the first sector in Austin?
Much lower speed, and for that reason it's a lot more on rhythm and feel than just sheer commitment and bravery, basically. Through Maggots and Beckett's, you're tensed as you're coming into it. You turn into the first part of Maggots absolutely flat out. You think you're right, let's blend out a bit of throttle for the next couple of parts. It's similar for Austin. Austin, super quick, a little bit bumpier through there as well. And the speed of it means it's just your eyes are on stalks, wide open, and you're just sort of gritting your teeth. Whereas here it's a little bit more precise, it's more precision, it's narrower, it's lower speed, and there's an extra element through the snaking sequence as well. So I think because it's lower speed, you can be a little bit more precise with it, rather than just grab the bull by the horns and just turn it in and just have full commitment to it sticking. Commitment doesn't do the job in the first sector. It's important to have that because obviously you can underdrive and lose time, but it's about having that flow and sequence more.
Jolyon Palmer, former Renault Formula One driver, former GP2 champion, telling you what it's like behind the wheel at this magnificent circuit and what's required. It's the section that George Russell is tackling right now, watching his teammate at the end of it. Russell in the left-hand side of your picture, Mercedes out there very early on. With 12 minutes to go of Q2. Driver feedback going on with race engineers right now. Arvid Lindblad has said he's got more margin into the chicane. He can brake later. He can attack more. Carlos Sainz furious with Isaac Hadjar on the radio, accusing Hadjar of impeding him on that run. Those are drivers that will hope to be in the mix for the top 10 shootout. The drivers at the mix at the front will be the Mercedes, with Ferrari and McLaren getting as close as they possibly can. Antonelli driving with the confidence of being a Grand Prix winner, first to set the time on the board.
On used tyres still, so the big team's still just trying to hold back all the soft tyres they can. Piastri's out there on a new set at the moment, so he should lay down an improved time. Antonelli may well do that, and he does. 29.7, that's quick. And that is his second run on the tyres. Now, Russell's on his third run on the tyres because he went again at the end of Q1, and that might explain a 3.5-tenth gap, although Kimi has been looking that little bit more confident regularly. Wide line through the chicane once again for Hamilton. It will keep the tyres more in contact with the ground as he heads to the line. It'll mean he can get on the throttle more, but he'll have more turning to do through there. Charles Leclerc fighting it once again, and he's quick with it.
100th of a second away. If you've not been with us earlier in the weekend, Charles Leclerc has basically been sideways throughout. He has been wringing the neck of the Ferrari, trying to find some pace around this circuit. Isaac Hadjar is doing the same thing. He's been squirrely all the way through, nearly rubbing along the wall as he manages to get ahead of Max Verstappen.
He's doing a brilliant job, Hadjar. You could see the difference there with, as Russell says, still struggling with the rear end, not happy at all. So Mercedes will have looked into that, made some changes, presumably dropped some front wing flap just to give him the confidence again. But George still not there with it. Hadjar bouncing over the curbs. You straight line this chicane a little bit more, but you do unsettle the car, and it's difficult to then deposit that power as you see Lindblad fighting his car coming out of there. It is still a significant traction zone running up to the line. Lindblad through, 9/10 away. Should say the race controls looked at the Hadjar Sainz incident and they weren't interested in it. So Hadjar's fine.
And he continues on. The French driver reporting to his team that he's struggling to rotate the car at the hairpin. That is the 11th turn of 18 around this circuit. Let's go on board with the former Formula 2 champion in his second year of Formula 1, Gabriel Bortoleto of Brazil, and he's third fastest. Now, look, that's old tyres versus new, but it tells a story of Audi having a strong weekend so far.
So should we have a look at new tyres versus new, because that's what the McLarens are on. So here we go, fastest first sector for Piastri. Oh, he's quite wide on the exit of Spoon. Has he managed to keep the foot in and find the exit, or has he had to just check that throttle? He sure has kept his foot in. It's the fastest middle sector so far as well, as you see Norris picture in picture on your left-hand side, right out towards the gravel as well. Lumping the curb. Aggressive on the entry there was Oscar. He's a couple of tenths up on Lando. New tyres for both of these McLarens.
Piastri, fastest time so far. Antonelli's time set on old Pirelli rubber. To the world champion, Lando Norris now. Having lost track time, he has been out-qualified by Oscar Piastri in both Grand Prix qualifying sessions so far this season, and he's 0.3 of a second behind as he plays catch-up after mechanical trouble on both days of the weekend so far.
So Piastri's getting close to Antonelli's free practice time now. The Mercedes, remember, on used tyres, as was Charles Leclerc's Ferrari and Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari. So more to come from them. You've also got 100th between Antonelli and Leclerc. You've got 1,000th between Russell and Hamilton. So driver for driver, the Ferrari's doing a very good job of matching the Mercedes right now on the used tyres.
This is George Russell at the final chicane of the racetrack. Let's have a look again from the trackside camera. You saw it on board. Movement off the curb for the championship leader.
Yeah, the car running stiff. And again, that's your classic run the curb, open the track up, but compromise your ability to get on the throttle. Somewhere in there is the perfect compromise between running off the curbs and having a lot more cornering to do versus clouting the curbs and straight lining it. Didn't look too bad for George, but he was tentative getting on the throttle as well coming out there. I think new set of tyres, you do pick up a good hit of rear grip. The first thing you find when the grip level goes up is your traction gets better, and that'll help those that are really taking the curbs hard and struggling for traction on the exit. Not only that corner, but turn 11 as well. The left-hand hairpin's been a bit tricky.
So Antonelli at the moment with the advantage over Russell. Remember, we will reset the times after we get to the end of Q2. Hulkenberg finding himself 0.9 of a second off, but in 11th. The sole remaining Haas is Ocon. It's Lindblad, Colapinto, Lawson and Carlos Sainz.
Great job from Gasly, 8th. And he's well up on Colapinto so far this weekend. That's carried on into Q2. So Franco just snuck through Q1, but he's got plenty more to do if he's going to get near the top 10 here. Gasly flying ahead of the Red Bulls again, having been ahead of them throughout the weekend in China, certainly over one lap anyway. Fresh new softs on the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, so that'll be his first foray on softs, on new softs in Q2 here. We see a wind up for George Russell. New set of softs for George as well. He's going to find Hamilton down on the track ahead of him. Important that he gets out of the way. Not easy to get out of the way on this circuit as well, because it's narrow and so twisty through here. But Lewis on the radio and having good communication to not impede George Russell.
So Russell on the radio complaining about a lack of rear grip earlier in the session. Can Russell find his way into contention with a better feel behind the wheel with 5 minutes to go of Q2? Currently in 6th position, Hamilton behind, then Gasly, Hadjar and Verstappen. Verstappen less than 0.1 of a second safe to Hulkenberg. who hasn't made a Q3 session here since 2016. So it's been a while.
Yeah, and those Red Bulls, they were on new tyres as well, Hadjar and Verstappen. So that is the pace of the car. Much like China, they are on the edge of sneaking through into the top 10. Both drivers did it in both qualifyings, but it wasn't easy, and they have to hook up a decent lap. Otherwise, you will have the likes of the Audis today. Bortoletto's laps are astonishing up there in 5th place. They are very capable of getting in amongst it, as will be potentially a Racing Bull coming through, potentially Esteban Ocon as well.
Yeah, Liam Lawson believes he's got loads of time to find. Wasn't happy with 3 corners on his lap that currently puts him 1.5 seconds behind the benchmark pace. Russell going again then, and it stacks up to 2nd position. George Russell, personal best, Sector 1, Sector 2, no personal best at the end. He's 0.3 of a second away, and that was on a new tyre set.
Yeah, at this stage, we can say that George is not comfortable in the car. I know we've heard it on the radio, but that's a new set of tyres, should be finding the rear grip, and he's been complaining of various issues, some aero problems at the rear, some mechanical issues then at the rear, feels like it's towing out, he said on the radio, so just feeling like an instability, especially in the medium-high speed stuff. And from there, it's difficult to find the confidence to go and attack these corners. As Hamilton, you can hear when the revs pick up as the MG UK kicks in and he starts to get the full whack of the electric motor heading towards the Degners.
So Hamilton not too far away, 200ths away from Piastri's best. There are new tyres on the car. That is a monster first sector for Charles Leclerc. Out of the 2nd Degner for the 27-time pole position holder in Formula 1, currently in P4. Hamilton is in your main picture, heading into Spoon Curve. A 4-time Japanese Grand Prix winner, a circuit so often defined by what you can put together in this session. They're just sorting out the top 10 shootout. Hulkenberg, Ocon, Lindblad, Colapinto on outlaps. And you can see middle part of the lap, Hamilton with a personal best. Charles Leclerc still projected to be ahead of Oscar Piastri's benchmark.
Well, we could be heading for the best lap of the weekend then if Leclerc can close this one out. Hamilton through and drops a 10th in the final sector as well. Leclerc fighting the car through the final chicane and again on the exit as well.
Saw on the way in, saw on the way out.
Well, I think we're missing something here. We couldn't lose this much pace. Just have a look for everything.
Yeah, he's not happy at all, George Russell. Big lap for Verstappen here, on the bubble, 10th place. Sweeps around Antonelli on his outlap, getting ready for a new tyre set in just a moment. But Max fighting a lot at the wheel as well. So Red Bull on a knife edge between understeer and oversteer. In between it is just a lack of outright grip, and that's what you're seeing here. This car does not look neat, poised. Does not look like it's a lot of fun to drive for Verstappen through there, hanging on to it. It's a personal best, but he's 0.6 down on Charles Leclerc through the first sector. That's why he was mighty last year as well.
Verstappen all over the curb at the exit of the 2nd Degner corner. This is the rotation that his teammate is struggling with at turn 11 at the hairpin. His last 4 qualifying results around this circuit. Pole, 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 and pole again. But this is just a battle to make the top 10 shootout. Verstappen with a personal best in the first sector of the racetrack needs an improvement, with others, including Hulkenberg, not too far away.
If either one of these Red Bulls doesn't improve, Hulkenberg will have a decent shot at usurping them for a Q3 slot. Verstappen's piecing the sectors together better, green and green, but it's not a massive improvement through each of them.
At 2/3 of the lap, he's taking a 1/10 of a second forward, trying to find a way through now. And he does improve past his teammate, but it's still within touching distance for Hulkenberg and Ocon.
Yeah, that time is achievable. Hadjar gets ahead, so it's Verstappen on the bubble, and he's done his flying lap. Ocon out there trying to improve. Personal best in the first sector, and Hulkenberg's going quickly.
Strong lap for Isaac Hadjar, who out-qualified Max Verstappen by default in Australia, but could be about to do it on merit when it comes to Suzuka. Piastri is in 2nd position. Hulkenberg's very, very close. 100th of a second away from Max Verstappen, and a bit of a shock for the Suzuka specialist. Gasly over the line, he improves to P6 with the fastest final sector of anyone so far. Hülkenberg hasn't been in Q3 here since 2016, and he won't be. There was a big opportunity there. He wasn't able to take it, and now Bortoletto in 8th position. What can Arvid Lindblad do? He's on a much better lap in the Racing Bulls. Bortoletto still P8.
Here we go with Lindblad then coming through the final couple of corners. Can he knock Max Verstappen out of Q3?
He comes across the line. He does it! The rookie driver, 18 years of age, Arvid Lindblad knocks out the 4-time champ. An almighty shock at a circuit Verstappen has made his own in the last few years. Verstappen 11th.
Lawson's on a lap as well, but he's not about to trouble the top 10. Lawson's through and 14th. What a job from Lindblad then. Missed FP2 yesterday, missed the crucial hour of running. They had a gearbox issue in the car. He's jumped in, difficult circuit, as Antonelli drops that benchmark a quarter of a second lower in the Mercedes. See if Hamilton can find his feet in this session, half a second away. But Lindblad, that's astonishing for him to get up into Q3 on a circuit that he's not known coming here, missing one of the 2 sessions yesterday.
I think something with the car made this completely unrun. Well, suddenly it is qualifying. Jumping on high speed on the rear suddenly.
So we saw that unfold on board with Max, didn't we, for the first half of that lap? It looked like it was just so unpleasant in the S's there. He was hanging on to it with so much oversteer. And his miserable start to the year just gets worse.
Hülkenberg had the chance, Ocon had the chance, Verstappen had the chance, but it's Lindblad who made it through along with Isaac Hadjar. And Gabriel Bortoletto and Pierre Gasly will be delighted as well. Max Verstappen, the big shock, out in 11th position. His brilliant run of qualifying performances comes to an end. And Jolien, we spoke earlier on about the setup changes that they are just chucking at that car all the time. They have made it part of the resurgence last year, part of the 10 podium finishes consecutively at the end of the campaign was making C changes to the car from Friday to Saturday. They don't quite understand the new regulation set in the way they did the old, and the setup changes affecting Max Verstappen adversely there. He's out along with Ocon, Hülkenberg, Lawson, Colapinto and Sainz.
And a great job from Hadjar as well to be close to Max through the weekend, to be ahead of him when it counts in qualifying. I have to say, the Red Bull car is tricky. Hadjar coming in that dreaded second seat alongside Max, he's doing a really good job. And if this was a more competitive car, I mean, we'd be showering him with praise. He's ahead of, you know, the toughest guy out there, the most complete driver. So it's a great job from Hadjar. It's baffling to me how he was so quick in Melbourne. Qualified 3rd. I think he probably got more out of the car than plenty of others around, and surprised himself and the other teams with their performance. But yeah, Red Bull trying to turn the car upside down to find performance that I just don't think is there.
Well, Max Verstappen walking away, having been knocked out in Q2. Max Verstappen, the big shock in the second part of qualifying. This is on board with his push lap through the S's.
Yeah, this is where you can see him juggling the wheel already coming through turn 4. Waiting for the throttle pickup as well, coming through turn 6.
Well, a shock for Verstappen. He's in 11th, Ocon in 12th, then Hülkenberg, Lawson, Colapinto and Sainz, the drivers eliminated in that part of qualifying. Let's get some more analysis now with Alex Brundle.
I think it'll be something to look at for Mercedes as well, guys, that session. This is the car that ended FP3 0.8 of a second to the good over any other manufacturer. Kimi Antonelli, at the peak of track evolution at the end of the session, does find a lap, but it's only 0.2 clear. The driver I want to look at, though, is the driver who finds himself 0.6 back, and that's George Russell. Most of it is in the middle sector. You heard him talk to the team over the radio. Let's have a little bit of a look at this. Looks neat and tidy through turn 1 for George Russell, using all the road through 3, 4, 5, and then all the way through these S's at the beginning of the lap. Here, he's not lost too much to anyone but Charles Leclerc, who is incredible in this first sector of the lap in his Ferrari. Can't spot an obvious mistake, though, for George Russell so far. Committed into the first part of Degner and then out through the exit. Could just be the deployment is not quite right for him in this middle sector of the lap. Finds himself slightly wide in the hairpin, but that would be the normal line. Listening in, the car appears to be delivering under load for George Russell down through turn 12, heading towards Spoon. It's a relatively early coast down, must be said. Down towards Spoon, there it is, look. The moment through the middle of Spoon. That will have delayed him to throttle a little bit and will have cost him a little bit of time and energy, of course, as he heads then down towards 130R, meaning that this D-rate will come earlier for him if he has to get back to the throttle and use a bit of energy. It's not a lot for Russell. Oh, that's not very nice either, is it, though, to be fair, through the mid-corner of the chicane. Not a perfect lap, not a terrible lap, but Mercedes definitely not in the cruise to pole position dominant space that we thought they would be after free practice, guys. Ferrari looking very much in it for pole.
Thank you, Alex. The Ferrari fans will be pleased to hear you say that. Are we about to have a multi-team battle for pole position for the first time this year?
I'll tell the Ferrari fans some other news is they probably don't need pole to lead this Grand Prix at the start of the race, remember. Such has been the state of their starts. It's a reasonable run to the first corner, a tricky downhill start as well. If they can get on the front row, that'll be an easy slingshot, you'd have thought, for let's say, a Leclerc versus Antonelli to dive down the inside. It's whether you could get a McLaren in the mix as well. Now, the McLaren starts have been starts have been a little bit better than the Mercedes. They didn't even take the start in China, but in the sprint, they were better than the Mercedes as well with the same power unit. So it's one thing for Antonelli or Russell to take pole position. It's another thing to try and put the teammate alongside them on the front row to have a chance to block the Ferraris. Then the next question becomes, if you have got your teammate alongside you on the front row, do you work together or do you try desperately to cut them off and allow the Ferraris through? Because that's what Antonelli did in China, and it paid off very nicely for him.
Well, an unexpected battle we mentioned at the top. Would it be a bolt from the blue? There is something about this circuit that just rips up the form book. We saw it last year in Max Verstappen conquering the mighty McLarens. Can someone get on terms with the Mercedes machine of George Russell, lacking rear grip, and Kimi Antonelli, who across the most recent practice sessions has been strong. Lewis Hamilton knows how to take a pole position around this circuit. He's got a couple of them in his Formula One career. Charles Leclerc was on the front row here with Sebastian Vettel. 2019 is the last time anyone other than Max Verstappen has taken pole for the Japanese Grand Prix. So this is an unusual session to have a top 10 shootout where he is not even featuring. Green light at the end of the pit lane. The contenders for pole, Antonelli, Russell, Piastri, Norris, Hamilton and Leclerc, and those who have done brilliantly to get into this session: Gasly, Bortoletto, Lindblad and Isaac Hadjar.
There can't be too many tracks where Lewis Hamilton doesn't know how to take pole position. He's taken 104 of them in his career. Any sort of legacy circuit.
Yeah, it's basically Miami.
I don't know how thorough your notes are, but just bank on the fact that he's probably done it.
Miami and Las Vegas are the two that spring to mind.
Madrid, he's never taken pole in Madrid.
He's heading out onto the circuit along with teammate Charles Leclerc. Well, Charles Leclerc has been getting used to life with the new regulation set when it comes to Q3, how to approach it, how to make sure that the car is able to know where it is on circuit, how the deployment needs to work, because this is one of Charles Leclerc's great strengths behind the wheel, bringing a magic lap when it counts in the final part of qualifying.
And that Ferrari's been darty as well. It's been so lively on the rear axle. The same issue that, the same dynamics that Russell's had, the same issue that Verstappen's had, the car just hopping around and being kind of tail happy, being twitchy. Leclerc's had that, but we have just seen every time we cut to Leclerc, he is fighting the car. You can see his hands working in the cockpit, but he's happier with the car in that state. He's able to extract a lap time consistently from it. So can he get amongst these Mercedes? This looks a little bit livelier for Antonelli as well, darting through turns 5 and 6. Bring it to the right-hand side and then a quick whip through turn 7. And now the MG UK kicks in and he'll get more deployment down towards the Degners. Full confidence, commitment. It's a decent first sector.
Looking good for Antonelli. How does Russell stack up? He's ahead. That's what Russell needed to happen, but it is very, very fine margins. 0.02 of a second between the Mercedes pair.
Well, it's basically a dead heat, isn't it, through the first sector? That's going to count for nothing at the end of the lap, those 0.02. Surely there's something more in there to come. Russell looked a little wide at the apex at turn 11, but it's not the most punishing as Antonelli gets out wide into Spoon, maximising the track width, taking a little bit of risk on the right-hand side.
If the gap between these two is 0.02 of a second at the end of the lap, we riot. But at the moment, Antonelli has a useful tow from Isaac Hadjar, who's weaving to build up his lap.
It'll be the tow that's done it if there's 0.02 for Antonelli. So he's now up on George Russell through 2 sectors. Just the chicane to go. How quickly can you get to throttle?
Oh. Oh. Today.
Leclerc's first sector is right there with his teammate and the Mercedes as well.
Norris to third, he's 0.6 of a second off. Piastri has been the stronger McLaren this weekend. Let's see where he is across the line. He goes into third, but he's 0.3 of a second away, as is Charles Leclerc at the 2/3 point.
So Hamilton does the Hamilton line through the final chicane, missing those curbs, and scrambles to the line. Behind him, Leclerc is going quicker, so Hamilton's 5th behind the McLarens, but Leclerc could get in amongst it.
Let's see whether the Ferrari can fight his way to the front. He fades to 5th. 5th position for Charles Leclerc. Then it's Hamilton 0.7 away. Norris is 0.6 away. Piastri's able to get close with 3rd, but it's only really close with George Russell. Antonelli miles out front. Hadjar is 1.2 seconds behind.
So both Ferraris lost about 0.3 in the final sector. That's got to be a deployment game. We saw Hamilton through there on his standard line, but there's not a huge amount of lap time. It's a trade-off there, as I've mentioned. It's got to be a deployment. They've run out of battery for the end of the lap. Used too much too early, and then they're sort of limping their way to the line, because it is just that final chicane, a straight line run through 130R, where you're derating, you're slowing down through 130R into the braking point for the chicane, and then it's just what have you got to the line, and everyone's trying to basically end the lap on 0% battery. Use everything you've got. There's no point finishing with anything in the tank, and they're all basically running out just before. But I wonder if the Ferraris have left themselves a bit in the lurch, because that lap suddenly fell away for both of them.
Kimi Antonelli waited 26 starts in Formula One before he started at the front for a Grand Prix. Could he be about to go back-to-back? He has a huge margin for this stage of the session. Russell chasing rear grip. Piastri trying to bridge a 3.5 margin. And then Norris, Leclerc and Hamilton with massive gaps at this stage of Q3.
Yeah, so it's Piastri that's going to be targeting that front row slot. Only 0.5 between him and Russell. And you say that's a big gap between the Mercedes. It's really big when you have the context of George just not being happy with the car either. So there's not really time to change anything on the setup apart from some front wing angle at this stage. And he'll have been playing around with that the whole way through just to find a balance with the car. Add a bit of front wing, add a bit of front downforce, find some oversteer, some front end. That's all he's really got in his locker now to try and help himself out. Some tools on the steering wheel as well, your differential that you can change as you're going round. Open that up and find some front end. Your brake mapping, brake balance has been a balancing tool forever in Formula One. More complicated now with the MG UK doing a lot of the work for you on the rear axle. But there are small tools to do, but you're not going to make an overhaul to the car. Antonelli's 3/10 margin will take some beating, but you can never rest on your laurels.
No, and there are customers behind who could well put the pressure on, but a great opening lap when it counts to give yourself the foundation to push again. That's what Kimi Antonelli, 19 years of age, a one-time Grand Prix pole position holder, has given himself the opportunity of doing. And he is 4 points back in the World Championship battle coming into this weekend.
So for reference here, all of the front runners were on new tyres in Q2 and then again in Q3, of course. Piastri's found about 3/10 to jump up to third. Norris has found nearly 4/10 as he continues to chase mileage this weekend. He's up in fourth. You had Antonelli finding just under 3/10. Russell finding a lot more as he's trying to get up to terms with his Mercedes car in this session. Meanwhile, Leclerc lost a 1/10.5. So if you had the average of everyone else, you'd have Leclerc somewhere near Russell and Piastri, and that has got to be the target for Ferrari. Hamilton found 200ths. So the two Ferraris are the team here who have basically gone backwards into Q3. Is there a quick fix, or have they just maximised what they've got and there's nothing more to come? But the track should be able to give them that little bit more at this stage.
So the first three rows on the grid defined by single teams at the moment. Mercedes, McLaren, Ferrari. Will it remain that way by the time we get to the checkered flag?
Andrea Stella must be cock-a-hoot with this. On the pit wall, looking round, I reckon he would take this being a checkered flag right now, third and fourth on the grid. You're 3/10 off pole. That would be a good turnaround, I think, for McLaren, especially when you consider some of the reliability issues they've had this weekend. To be ahead of Ferrari and have a shot at the race lead at the start tomorrow, there's a chance of them to get on the front row if they hook this one up. But it's closing up, isn't it, that gap?
Yeah, McLaren talked about expecting progress, seeing encouraging signs from the wind tunnel, knowing the updates they have ready to bring. But at the moment, it is the Mercedes with the car to beat. And Kimi Antonelli, all the confidence that his breakthrough weekend in Formula One, a first pole for a Grand Prix, a first Grand Prix victory, ending Italy's 20-year drought to hear their national anthem played first on the top step of the podium. And Antonelli bringing all of the confidence and momentum to Suzuka. If he finds the improvement, someone would need an astonishing lap to get anywhere near it.
They've gone early, the two Mercedes. They're the first cars out on circuit to try a final flyer here. Charles Leclerc's just left the garage now, so they're going to fly past him early on in this lap. There is 2 minutes left. Plenty of time for Leclerc to get round, and he'll be the last car on track to take the most of the last bit of track evolution. It's probably a 1,000th or two, but in the session of 2000s, maybe that'll be it for Charles Leclerc. Here we go, Kimi Antonelli. Can he improve on his lap time? Here comes his final flyer.
Well, he has been aggressive. He has been using all of the curbs, all of the road, and he's doing so again out of the second turn into the S's.
Flat through 3, downshift through 4. Blend out of the throttle. And the same is true through turn 6. A little stab of brake as well to get the car rotated through there. Deploying all the way through down towards the Degners. He's fractionally up.
Marginal gain in the first sector of the racetrack. George Russell is 2 corners behind him. Degner 1, Degner 2 for Russell, and he goes over the line with a personal best in the first part of the racetrack.
Both cars were using an awful lot of road coming out of Degner 2. So Russell is fractionally ahead of Antonelli through the first sector, but we know last time out it was sector 2 that made a bigger difference. Can George find something more there as Kimi shuffles the wheel through the Exeter Spoon curve, desperate to get the power down? A quick look to George Russell sees him attacking the entry there as well, and that looked quick from Russell.
A fight between the Silver Arrows when it matters, with the clock ticking down. At the end of qualifying, Antonelli is not improving his time from before, but neither is George Russell. Could it be back-to-back pole positions for the Italian driver? He's 0.06 of a second away. Can Russell find an improvement at the end and knock his teammate off top spot? Nowhere near. 0.4 of a second away. Advantage Antonelli.
Can Piastri get closer?
It's Norris over the line first for McLaren. He remains in 4th.
So Piastri's got a chance at the front row here if he can neatly get out of this exit.
The Australian driver to the line, and he's 0.4 of a second away. No improvement. Welcome to the fight, Charles Leclerc.
So handily, they've gone nearly a full lap behind the Mercedes. Hamilton through to the final turn, but he's not improving. Can Charles Leclerc offer anything? Oh, he's on the limit of rear grip and over it once again in the hairpin.
Fast hands through the hairpin at turn 11. Hamilton can't improve. Charles Leclerc is trying to extract everything from that Ferrari.
So far, so quick. Oh, coaxing it into Spoon Curve.
Oh, that is unbelievable. Charles Leclerc dancing on the edge. Jolyon Palmer taking a step back in the commentary box. It is spectacular, but can it be good enough for the front row?
That one cost him too much. I've been wincing all weekend waiting for Charles to just lose it totally. He has been driving this like a speedway machine the whole way through, but I think that's cost him on the long run.
Gasly to P7, Hadjar in 8th, Charles Leclerc can't get to the front row. He can get ahead of a McLaren. It was spectacular, but it wasn't enough to interrupt the momentum of the Mercedes. And it's back-to-back pole positions in Formula One for Kimi Antonelli. He waited 26 starts to start at the front for a Formula One Grand Prix. Number 27 is going to be in the same place. Still, the driver to beat, and he will lead his teammate. It's not just pole, it's pole by nearly 0.3 of a second.
It's kind of been all weekend as well, hasn't it, for Antonelli? He was quick here last year. He's driving with confidence. He's driving with sheer speed as well. So, what happens tomorrow?
Nice work, Kimi. Whole position, mate.
Let's go, man. Wow. It's a shame the last lap because it was a good one, but yeah, good. I'm happy. It was a good quality. Happy.
Yeah,
it was a good quality.
Yeah, good clean session.
Mercedes lock out the front row once again. And it's Kimi Antonelli, who only out-qualified George Russell 3 times all season, who now goes 2-1 up in the head-to-head battle. Mercedes taking all 3 poles, but it's Kimi Antonelli now with 2 to his name.
If he wins tomorrow, he will be the Formula One Championship leader, age 19. How things have turned around for Kimi so quickly. And he's finding that form, isn't he? Finding that confidence, showing why Toto Wolff was desperate to put him straight into a Mercedes. A consummate performance so far this weekend, but he's got to do the job tomorrow and make the most out of this, and I'm sure it will not be plain sailing. Good job from Piastri to take 3rd. That's a great return for Oh, I reckon there was a front row in there for Charles Leclerc.
George Russell will be on that front row. Just didn't love the 1-lap pace from behind the wheel all the way through. These 2 lined up on the 3rd row last year. They're on the front row in 2026. Kimi Antonelli at the front. Kimi Antonelli is a 2-time pole position holder in Formula One when it comes to Grand Prix. This is Charles Leclerc. Stand back. It was spectacular.
I've got to try and watch this. I covered my eyes when he went this time, but It never looks as dramatic when you get it on a replay, but it's all of that while. So he was so tentative with the steering on the way in. All of the while the car is stepping out, he's not able to get onto throttle. He's having to wait patiently for it, and he's losing then for the entire run down to that braking zone there. It's a really long run, flat out through 130R. So there's plenty more time in it for Leclerc. Russell's been abusing that first curb all weekend, and to be honest, Mercedes hasn't been loving it through there. So that cost George a little bit more time, but I don't think it cost him 3/10.
They're flying the Antonelli flags. Every driver with enormous support here at Suzuka, but he's winning fans all the time. Okay, top three, speaking to Jean Alesi down in Parc Fermé. It's Kimi Antonelli, George Russell, and Oscar Piastri.
Kimi, what a pole position. Tell us from the inside.
Yeah, I'm super happy with the session. It was a good one. Was a clean one, and I felt very good in the car. And every run I was just improving, and was a shame for the last lap because I locked up in turn 11, but was a good one as well. So, really happy with the session, and I will focus on to tomorrow.
We enjoy a lot from outside.
Thank you so much.
George, you have a hard time now in the team.
Yeah, you did a great job again. Really strange session for us. I mean, we were both very fast all weekend. We made some adjustments in after FP3, and then the beginning of qualifying, we were nowhere. So need to kind of understand. Very lucky again to be in P2. The last 2 weekends, it's kind of both gone wrong come qualifying, but races tomorrow and still a lot to play for.
Oscar, finally a good start of the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I think qualifying's been okay this year, but yeah, nice to get into the top 3. I think this weekend we've looked good, and I think we've executed well. We clearly don't have the pace or the grip to match Mercedes still, but we're getting closer, which is the most important.
Well done. Kimi, you will wake up the whole Italy tomorrow morning. Everybody will watch you, but we are in Japan, and you see the fan. Say something to them.
Yeah, I mean, the fans here in Japan are pretty incredible. There's so much passion, and racing in such an historic track is an incredible feeling. The track is unbelievable to drive with this kind of cars, and plus, the fans give us a little bit more of a boost going on when we go on track. So thank you so much for coming, and yeah, arigato.
He's getting used to hearing the applause for taking pole position in China, now in Japan. It is a Mercedes front row lockout once again, but it is Kimi Antonelli who leads the way. And he will be presented with the pole position trophy. Delivering a clean lap, ruining the fact there was an improvement out there. A true racer at a true racer's circuit. And another trophy for the growing collection. Italy's 50th pole position in the history of the World Championship. Get the feeling he's going to be adding more and more and more. Which was enormous at the first race of the year and is down to 0.3 of a second. Of course, one of the few things Mercedes are weak at in 2026, getting off the line. So we could yet see, and there's a history of it down to turn 1 at this place, could yet see another epic start as the fans who create a glorious atmosphere here are acknowledged by the top 3.
Well, Mercedes not good at getting off the line, Piastri not good at getting to the line at the moment, so Fingers crossed he can at least start the race, and then we'll see if he's any good at them tomorrow. Charles Leclerc, 4th place, and quite a few times so far this year that has been the place to start, and we know that that car is quick off the line, so he'll still be a threat into turn 1. I do feel that with every race start that passes, though, the Mercedes must be getting more on top of how to execute a sensible launch. We're seeing other cars with Mercedes power units actually be pretty competitive off the line, so it's there for him. But he knows it'll be so important. It's not the easiest track to overtake. Maybe it should be more this year, but it's always been a race about track position.
Yeah, pole sitters won 7 of the last 8 around this circuit. Kimi Antonelli will start the 3rd Grand Prix of the year from pole position. His 2nd in a row, his 2nd in his Formula 1 career. George Russell will complete a Mercedes front row lockout once again, but Oscar Piastri getting closer, and Charles Leclerc went maximum attack, paid the price on the way to 4th. 5th for Lando Norris, 6th for Lewis Hamilton. Gasly in 7th place ahead of Isaac Hadjar, Gabriel Bortoleto and Arvid Lindblad having great qualifying hours to make the shootout. Max Verstappen, the shock of Q2 in 11th, then Esteban Ocon and Nico Hulkenberg. Liam Lawson ahead of Franco Colapinto. Carlos Sainz doing well to make it through into the next stage of qualifying. And then it was Alex Albon, the shock of Ollie Behrman, starting in 18th. And then it's Perez, Bottas and Alonso ahead of Lance Stroll, who will line up 22nd for the Japanese Grand Prix. My thanks to Jolyon Palmer for all of his driving insights throughout the qualifying hour. It is all set up for another Mercedes battle at the front tomorrow when Formula 1 returns. Here we go, everyone. This is Formula 1. Incredible! What a move!
It's a moment I will never ever forget.
Back-to-back pole positions for Kimi Antonelli, and by no small margin. 3/10 from teammate George Russell, who was experiencing issues throughout the session, with Oscar Piastri managing to bounce back to P3. Charles Leclerc giving it absolutely everything, but unable to put it together when it mattered most. And that wasn't all. A shock Q2 exit for 4-time world champion Max Verstappen. Much to discuss here. Welcome to your post-qualifying show. Hello everyone, welcome to a very busy paddock here in Suzuka. Alex Brundle alongside me. My goodness, that was quite the qualifying session. Let's start with our pole sitter, Kimi Antonelli. Back-to-back poles.
Yeah, F1's youngest pole sitter's definitely shown us he's got the hang of it, hasn't he, in Q3. A really impressive lap. He executed early on. The lap at the end wasn't available for either Mercedes, but when it was available at the start of Q3, you know, he nailed his apexes. Really impressive stuff for still a very young head in Formula 1.
And I believe we have a guest who is going to join us now, another very special guest. Jacques, come alongside me here. Yes, lovely. 1997 World Champion Jacques Villeneuve joins us. How are you doing, first of all?
Fantastic. Well, Japan is always special.
It is, isn't it? It is a special place. We were just discussing Kimi Antonelli's performance there. Your opinion on that from the young Italian?
He did very well, but you can see he has a very aggressive driving, but his rear end is planted. And he managed to drive around like this. And Russell tried to have a more balanced car, and he's not handling the rear. But I think there's a little bit of an effect from the last China race where, you know, the win, Räikkönen gave him a little extra boost, confidence, and it rattled Russell. And he's not driving in his smooth way like he normally is.
Yeah, these short wheelbase cars seem to reward that nice, calm steering action, don't they? And I agree with you. Antonelli just looks on top of the world. Although earlier on in this weekend, Russell looked a little bit happier with the car, but you hear the radio messages as he's making his way through qualifying there must be something wrong with this thing when the lap when the lap doesn't work out. That's not a guy who's going to fingertip it into spoon, is it?
No, exactly. And we've seen the same thing with Lewis. He's been having the same kind of issues, or with Max, for example. But when you hear a driver, what's wrong with this thing, it's undrivable, it's not the driver that's feeling what's happening either. It's just a frustrated driver. But he was also saying earlier, they made some changes after free practice, and his car went from great to undrivable. So he should know what's wrong with the car.
Jacques, let's just go back to Kimi for a moment. In his second season within Formula One, you were a pretty strong rookie yourself, and of course your second season ending very, very well. What is your take on how Kimi is approaching his time in Formula One and this performance improvement that we've seen in this second season?
Well, this weekend is the first one we see now that he's been on top of it.
Yeah.
If you look at the previous 2 weekends, he was slower than George. But then he maximized the fact that Russell had some issues in qualifying and so on. Then that gave him the win, and that might have launched him.
And looking now back at George Russell again, as you were saying, issues throughout in terms of the car. How do you think George is going to feel having Kimi getting those back-to-back poles? Because we know what George is like and how much he wants this championship. It's got to be hard when it's a young, not rookie, but second season driver.
It's hard also because he knows that, you know, Kimi is the golden boy of Toto and of Mercedes. So that's not a position he wants to be in. He needs to beat Antonelli. He needs to win the championship because his seat, you know, is movable.
Yeah.
Antonelli's seat is not movable. It's a very different situation for both drivers.
You've got to remember George as well battled for this seat. Mercedes held him really long. Come to contract time, there was all the discussion about whether Max Verstappen was going to make the move to Mercedes. He must have started this year, very young driver alongside him, thinking, this is my time. I've got the power unit, I've got the car wrapped around it, all from the same manufacturer, and I know that I'm going to have a World Championship winning car. All of a sudden, this young upstart becomes F1's youngest pole sitter and keeps on delivering these laps. And he realizes, oh my goodness, you know, I'm really going to have to fight for this. This is not what I ordered. I ordered a dominant car and a young teammate learning off me all year.
And I think that is going to set us up for some potentially very exciting battling when we get to the race tomorrow. We're going to get into that a little bit more shortly. But one of the big shocks from that session was Max Verstappen exiting in Q2. Let's hear from him now, speaking earlier to Lawrence Barretto.
Hey Max, it looked like a bit of a world of pain out there. Can you just talk me through how tough it was behind the wheel?
Yeah, not good. We thought we had a little, well, we fixed a little bit in FP3, but then going into qualifying, it was again very difficult. Yeah, just sliding a lot, but at the same time also not having the rotation mid-corner everywhere. So yeah, that makes it quite a complicated balance. So yeah, that's not ideal around here.
I know that last year when you were trying to chase things, you kind of took this opportunity to try lots of different things. Is that just what you're going to have to keep doing until you find a solution?
Yeah, but I think we have bigger problems than what we had last year. Yeah, some parts of the car at the moment are not working how we want them to work.
All right, well, hard luck. Thank you.
Well, there was Max Verstappen. I mean, he hasn't sounded happy or confident in that car, not just this weekend, but all season. Jacques, what did you make of what you saw out there on track in terms of how difficult that car looked to handle when we were on board with him?
It is undrivable, and the stellar drivers are always better when the car is good because they can maximize what they have. When they have a difficult car to drive, they overdrive. They overdo it, and the car becomes even worse and worse and worse, and they can't pinpoint where the issue is. He was complaining this morning that he needed 6 clicks of front wing. That's a lot. Yeah, terminal understeer. At the same time, a rear end that snaps. You cannot compose with 2 problems like that. You cannot fix it. You cannot set the car up. And also, he wants to win. He doesn't want to fight for 8th. So what does he do? He tries too much, where the teammate just is happy to beat him. Same thing happened when Ricciardo joined Red Bull and beat Vettel this way. Vettel was trying to go for the wins, overdoing it, and ended up at the back. The other issue, they have new bits on Verstappen's car.
Yes.
And we have a history of Red Bull bringing new bits, great on paper, extra downforce, undrivable, and that's what we're seeing.
I totally agree. In his mind, Verstappen is comparing his experience to a championship winning car. And even though, you know, he just plain doesn't have the downforce at the moment. You can move it to the front. That's kind of what he's describing there. You can move it to the front, you can stabilize the rear, it just doesn't have the load. So he throws the car at the racetrack trying to generate a pole position, and it's just not there.
As you've both said, he's been struggling with the car all weekend and overdriving it. So when we look ahead to tomorrow, what does he have to do? What does the team have to do to be able to claw back some points? Because Max is not going to be happy finishing outside of the top 10, especially here, a track that he goes so well at.
Well, what he really needs to do...
You're just laughing.
I'm waiting for him to come up with an answer.
The race runs don't look that great either, I must be said. He did a long race run on the hard in FP2. It wasn't that great. The reality is that they are where they are right now, and he's got to hope for some unreliability, which is not outrageous, considering what we've seen through the rest of the year so far. He's going to be sitting behind that lead pack, the 2 Ferraris, the 2 Red Bulls, and the 2 Mercedes. Get the laps in, and then use those laps to go into the break and try and bring some more upgrades that suit the car better, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, because in the race, they do so many laps that you actually start understanding the car better. And then you can come up with ideas, okay, that wasn't drivable because this was happening at 40 laps to figure it out. So that's helpful with the long break. Also, the race pace is slower than quali. You're never on the edge, so big problems become a little bit smaller, and he's a great racer. So it's only it pans out a little bit. The other issue is last year he was quick because he managed to take some wing off, and he could drive the car a little bit on the edge. This year, they have less downforce in general. He cannot reduce the downforce.
So it's going to be a tough race for him tomorrow, but we will see how Max Verstappen goes. We know that he gives it everything he can, absolutely every time he hits the track. Let's now hear from his teammate who did manage to get himself into Q3, P8 for Isaac Hadjar. We spoke to him earlier in the media pen.
Hi Isaac, considering how tough this car has been to drive this weekend, are you happy to have at least got into Q3 pretty comfortably at the end?
Yeah, I knew it was going to be very hard to get to Q3 considering all the practice sessions. But yeah, the car felt very different in qualifying, not very much in a good way. It was just very hard to drive, but it was better. So yeah, honestly, top P7 was like my goal. My unachievable goal, but we are very close to it.
So how are you feeling about tomorrow then, with a car that I guess changed quite a lot to quali, and then you're not quite sure how it's going to react?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be like already like scoring a point considering how close it is with the cars around me. It's going to be tricky, but of course points is the target. But anyway, the end goal is not to score points tomorrow, it's to understand how we can make that car faster.
Well, best luck with that tomorrow. Thank you.
Well, that was Isaac Hadjar, who, as we said, managed to qualify 8th there. Really strong performance from him, considering how much we're seeing his teammates struggle, right, Alex?
Yeah, certainly. We said when Hadjar came into the car that it would be a good year for him to come in. Such a seed change. They knew how strong Verstappen was in the old cars, so Hadjar is in a great position coming into the new reg set.
Fantastic. Well done to him. Let's now talk about Charles Leclerc, who qualified P4 there. But my goodness, did it look like he was really fighting that car at points and really pushing it to the absolute limit. We know that Charles knows how to handle a car around a track, especially in qualifying. But Jacques, what was it like seeing those onboards and seeing him tackle that Ferrari?
It was fun because it looked like quali laps, like how they should be pushed on the limit. But we've seen the Ferrari being a very aggressive car since the beginning of the season that allows the driver to push, and that's why they have great battles in the races. But Leclerc likes a car that's a little bit looser, a little bit lighter on the rear end than Lewis. We've had two first tracks that had more understeery tracks as a base. It suited Lewis better. Here's a track that's, when you're a little bit too neutral, the rear starts snapping, and Lewis had a little bit of a harder time today with that.
It looked spectacular, but it cost him. I think it cost him potentially a front row. He actually matches George Russell in the first sector. He matches him in the final sector. Yeah, the middle sector here is quite long. There's a lot of opportunity to lose time. But there was a sniff of the front row for Leclerc, which in a Ferrari, which is fantastic off the line, he needed to make the second row. The front row would have been even better. That would have been a slam dunk opportunity for him to lead the Grand Prix. As it happens, they know they've got decent-ish race pace. And the problem for him is he needs to do that to try to get somewhere close to Mercedes. And when you have to do that, when you have to put the car on the edge, you're inevitably going to make a mistake at some point.
And the Ferrari has a better balance with full tanks, which is good for the race start. They seem to use more energy into the first sector, get ahead, and then survive in the second sector, so that might be a bad thing for the race.
Well, we'll be able to see tomorrow. It looks like there could have been more from Charles. Let's hear it from the man himself, speaking to Lawrence.
Hey Charles, that fastest first sector on that final lap, thought you were on for something special and then just lost it in that moment. Talk to me about how you felt when the car was giving it that wiggle.
I was okay, I wasn't too stressed. Also because, I think, I don't know what the perception was of this moment, because I feel like many people were saying me that I was losing lap time because of that. I actually gained a lot of lap time by carrying that amount of speed in that corner. So actually it was a good thing that I had this moment. And I don't think it sacrificed any of my lap after that. So I was just pushing to the max, and it was a pretty good lap overall. The only thing that we struggle on our side for now is whenever we push in Q3, the optimization of the system is struggling a little bit, and then we lose times in the straight. So we lost a lot of lap time in the straights in sector 2 and 3, and that is very frustrating because as a driver you cannot do much. But yeah, I know the FIA is working actively on this issue, and hopefully we can find a solution soon, as in qualifying it's very frustrating.
But it's still all to play for, right, tomorrow for minimum the podium, and maybe you can go after the Mercedes a little bit?
With a good start we can maybe put them under a bit of pressure, but I eventually think that at one point they will get away like they've done in the past two races. They've got too much of a pace advantage. However, if for some reason we manage to take the fight until the last lap of the race, which is a long shot, then maybe we can hope the win. But as soon as they all have one lap in free air, it will be impossible for us to get back.
Well, best of luck. Try it
Thank
anyway.
you.
Thanks.
Charles Leclerc there in the media pen. He was actually one of the only drivers there to improve on that second lap, but still wasn't enough, and not sounding too optimistic about what he can do against the Mercedes tomorrow. Let's talk about his teammate Lewis Hamilton, P6 in that session. Alex, what did you make of his performance? We didn't see as much airtime from him on that session, but did you think he put in the best he could?
He's not dragging a time out of the car like Charles Leclerc, but he looks closer to the pace of the car than he did last year, Lewis Hamilton. I think it's something that Alex Albon said earlier on in the year is really ringing true for him, which is that his ability in the car is from the point of braking, and he takes a lot of speed then into the apex. The instant torque of these cars then gets the car back up to speed through the exit, even if you have thrown the exit ever so slightly. And this era of car appears to just suit Lewis Hamilton a little bit better. He's got a bit more of a spring in his step, but Leclerc takes some beating in a Ferrari in qualifying conditions.
He does indeed. It'll be interesting to see how those race starts go tomorrow. Jacques, how much potential do you think there is in those race starts for the Ferraris? We know how fast they've been, but as we've said, Charles starting on the second row, it's going to be tough, isn't it, still?
Well, second row is doable, but there's no braking into turn 1, and it's a short straight line. But that turn 1 is at the start is flat out now. They're regenning, so a lot can happen all the way into turn 2. Take the outside, there's a little bit of banking as well. And we've seen the Ferrari be extremely, extremely aggressive. Most in the first part of the race, the car is nimble, even with full tanks, and they have an advantage there. So, the start is one thing, but anything can happen in that first lap.
I think it has to happen for Leclerc in the first stage of the start, because the starts are really interesting this year. Some of them have 2 stages to them because of the energy requirements. Some drivers use it all down to turn 1, and then when there's another straight somewhere else in the first sector, you can have another go at any driver who's overcommitted. Here, though, you go straight into those sweepers between 3 and 6, so you don't have the second phase to have another go at it. So if the launch isn't good, then it's going to be difficult to come back at the Mercedes. And as Charles says there, as soon as the Mercs are off in clear air on their own, we've seen the data. They're going to disappear.
Well, the driver that will be alongside Charles Leclerc is Oscar Piastri. Let's hear from him in the media pen area.
Hey Oscar, well for a change it feels like things are going a bit smoother for you. How pleased are you at the way you handled FP3 and that qualifying run to get into the top 3?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy. I think that was more or less all we had. The last lap of Q3, yeah, wasn't great, but the first lap was pretty solid. So no, all in all, pretty happy with that. Yeah, nice to get a bit closer to Mercedes. So hopefully we can stay there tomorrow.
How much of a step forward does the car feel in terms of performance?
Tough to say. I don't think it's, the car's not changed in the 3 races we've had, so it doesn't really feel that much different. I think, maybe this track suits us a little bit better, and I think we've been able to exploit the power unit a bit better and just optimize things a bit more, because I think Melbourne and even China a little bit, we didn't, I think we're clearly behind in terms of our package, but I didn't think we got the most of it either. And I think this weekend we've done a really good job of that. So, yeah, nice to be making some progress, but still a pretty big gap to find.
Well, good luck tomorrow, anyway. Thank you.
Let's talk McLaren. Oscar Piastri there reflecting on his session. P3 for him, P5 for Lando Norris. Jacques, what do you make of the performance that we've seen from our reigning Constructors champions this weekend especially?
This week is better because it's a team that's lacking a lot of running time. If you look at mostly Piastri, when you look at Australia and China didn't race. So they're lacking mileage, so they're not in the best position they can be with their setup. But this weekend, the car seems to suit the track a little bit better, and both drivers could drive in a much calmer way and be competitive, which put them ahead of the Ferraris or in the battle with the Ferraris, which wasn't the case previously.
Thank you very much. Well, we can hear now from their team principal, Andrea Stella, who is with Greg Stewart.
Taken that, or did you dare to dream that pole position might be possible?
I think realistically for where we thought we are at the moment, P3 and P5 is a positive result. Is I think indication of progress overall for the team in terms of performance and competitiveness. I think this progress comes from the fact that we are learning more and more as to how to utilize the power unit, which we know is a complex factor to exploit in these 2026 regulations, but we are working well with our HPP engineers to add performance to the car. And at the same time, we are learning a little bit about the MCL40, so I think from a setup point of view, we are extracting some more performance. So some progress in being there with Ferrari. Mercedes is still one step ahead, and we know that we have to bring up grace to the car if we want to compete for the victory.
Trickier weekend for Lando Norris, issues in all 3 practice sessions. Does he just need a little arm around him tonight just to buck him up a little bit maybe?
Well, Lando is definitely driving very well if we consider that, as you said, every session we have had issues on the car that delayed Lando or somehow compromised his run plan. So from this point of view, I think we can be happy with P5 today. And, Lando is strong. Lando is very solid. He knows that sometimes you can have some, unlucky weekends. So we cope with that. We have to be resilient and then be there, because starting from P5 is an important opportunity for tomorrow. We have seen also that the race can be quite variable. The positions in the race can change rapidly, and it will be a good result overall for us if we were in condition to compete with Ferrari. We know that this may be difficult still, because Ferrari, they are quite fast in the race, but we will try and be there.
Best of luck tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
P5 for Lando Norris. Andrea Sella, being as honest as we're used to him, being very transparent that they need to bring upgrades if they're really going to challenge at the front. But a word on Lando there, the fact obviously he'd had such disrupted running throughout this weekend. Alex, do you feel that P5 is all that was in it for him given that?
I think it's actually a pretty good job from Lando. He was begging for laps through free practice. And this is the kind of circuit where it doesn't matter how many data traces they put in front of you. You have to go out there. There's no substitute for going out there and building up to the fast corners. He did get some laps in, but nowhere near as many as Piastri did. McLaren are just honing the package that they've got now, haven't they? They've got a better communication with Mercedes powertrains. They've got a little bit more understanding, but they're playing catch up big time to Mercedes, who've managed to design their car around the power unit and have this incredible efficiency. And they recognize that they need a stage of upgrades to actually jump the gap.
Well, Andrea, as I said, aware that they're not quite where they would like to be, and there is definitely some work to do to catch up with those in front of them, but not a bad starting position for either of those drivers tomorrow. Now, one driver that we were expecting that we may see in Q3 today, but it was a shock exit in Q1 instead, Ollie Bearman. Let's hear from him earlier on in the media pen.
Hey Ollie, obviously you were so good yesterday and the pace of the car looked good, then a tough FP3 this morning, and quali, just talk me through where it went wrong, you think?
Yeah, it's strange, not really sure. In the first run we had a problem on the car and we were just losing a lot of time in the straights. I think some type of software glitch or something. I haven't really understood the details, and then in run 2 I just didn't find any pace, so I need to understand if there was still a small issue on the car or if it was fixed or not, but you know, it's very tight margins and just didn't have enough to get through today.
So how are you feeling about tomorrow, given it was such a challenging day today?
Yeah, a bit more positive, I would say. You know, it's a shame about the qualifying, but there's still going to be plenty of opportunities in the race.
Best luck tomorrow.
As I said, a shock to not see Ollie further into qualifying there. What did you make of that, Alex?
Oh, but I'm not shocked to hear that he thinks he has some sort of issue. We've been hearing a lot about drivers. Jacques was telling me just before we came on air, and I've been hearing it through the weekend as well. Various drivers having moments, having bits of wheel spin, and then struggling with these software glitches, which cost them speed down the next straight. And it wouldn't surprise me if something like that has happened to Ollie Bearman. He's been so strong through the weekend.
He has indeed. Let's see how he goes tomorrow in the race. Let's now talk a little bit more broadly about Q1 and those drivers that dropped out in that first stage of qualifying. One of them, Alex Albon. And we know that Alex can be quite vocal on the radio about how he's feeling. And he was again in that session. He said he's complained for 3 races, but it's just his driving style. Jacques, what did you make of that? Unpack that statement for us.
I didn't understand the whole. You just, well, it sounds like frustration. That it sounds like someone is telling him, listen, it's your driving style. It's not. I didn't get the whole picture, so it's hard to comment. But it sounds like a frustrated corner comment. Because they know that they don't have the pace, and there's no secret to going faster now. The car is a little bit heavy, it's not born like it should be, and he's expecting, after you know the great season they had last year, it was a big step up from the past. Now to go back to the level they were previously is just very tough to swallow, and frustration is coming out.
It is. And what about on the other side of the Williams garage? Carlos Sainz did get out of Q1, but still, we weren't expecting too much from the team, were we?
For both of them, it's a crazy puzzle. I mean, put yourself in the garage. You're in a car which doesn't have the fundamental speed, but you're still learning the regulation set. So as a team driver-engineer combo, you'll always begin the weekend believing that there'll be some combination of regeneration, turning, lifting, braking, which is going to give you the magic power, the magic performance that you want. I think that might be what Alex Albon's alluding to over the radio there, and what the frustration is for drivers. It can just be the car's overweight and doesn't quite have the downforce load, but as the driver inside that team, you don't know, and you have to play this game with trying to massage and manipulate the car all weekend. It just broke through into the public forum over the radio for Alex.
P16 for Carlos Sainz, P17 for Alex Albon, and the other two teams that were out in Q1 were Cadillac and Aston Martin. Let's talk about Audi now, because Gabriel Bortoleto getting himself all the way up into Q3 and getting himself into P9. That's a pretty strong performance from him.
Yes, and Elkenberg's been quick all weekend as well. The cars,
Yeah.
the chassis is good. The chassis, remember, it's still the Sauber team, so they have a lot of knowledge. Just with a bigger budget now, more people working the team, so it's become a big team. And with Binotto running the team as well, he comes with Ferrari experience. So there's a big change there. The chassis is great, and you can see it. It drives well. They might be a little bit lacking on the engine now. You know, it's a brand new engine from scratch, but not a bad start for a new engine either. So it's surprising. They're doing good, and the only way is they will keep on progressing.
And what about a word on Nico? Because as you said there, Jacques, he had been the one that had been outperforming of the two through the weekend. That's what we'd said in our pre-quali show. And then, of course, they went and did it the other way around.
Yeah, Gabriel Bortoleto improves his best qualifying of the year. It's actually Bortoleto that had the best qualifying of the year for Audi. He now moves it forward a position to 9th place. We know he can qualify a car. We saw him do it at Sauber, saw him do it all the way through his Formula 2 career. But yeah, he will be excited about that, the trajectory of that Bortoleto. Both of those drivers waited a long time to have that kind of resource and performance behind them. They will be counting their lucky stars and thanking the Audi gods for giving them an engine which is good enough to compete, because there was no certainty on that. It's a really impressive job they've done. What they'll want now is the reliability. You know, they haven't managed to have both cars start throughout the Grand Prix of the year so far. And, you know, they're in that same position where you can do all of that work. You can get the best qualifying of the year for Audi and then turn up tomorrow and your engineer goes, sorry, Ace, battery's broken, you know, see you in Miami. So that's the reality of some of the teams on the grid, but it's a great Saturday.
Lovely. Right, we haven't yet mentioned Arvid Lindblad. We are trying to grab him on the show, but before we speak to him, fingers crossed, let's hear from our pole sitter, Kimi Antonelli.
Well, Kimi, congratulations. Heck of a performance throughout the whole of quali. Just how pleased are you the way you handled yourself and managed to get that second successive pole?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was a good session. I'm happy with it. I think you know, I was able to improve lap by lap, and that first Q3 lap was good. Second lap was looking strong, but then in turn 11 I locked up and lost quite a bit of time. So it was a shame. I was a bit annoyed with that, but you know, pole position. I felt good in the car, felt good with the track, and now focusing onto tomorrow.
Why do you think you've been so strong from the very first lap you turned it? Because it doesn't feel like you put a foot wrong. Do you have any kind of understanding, or do you think it's the confidence you got from China?
Well, for sure is, you know, I was able to build momentum already from Melbourne race, and then China was continuing to build momentum, and it's just you know, trying to keep this momentum and keep on trying to improve and squeeze every time a bit of performance without overdoing it. But I think overall I'm feeling, you know, I'm getting a good feel with the car. Of course, there's still work to do, especially on maximizing the PU, but yeah, was good, and really happy with that.
Well, best luck tomorrow,
Thank you.
Kimi. Thank you. Cheers.
Oh, that's the man that will be lining up in pole position tomorrow when it comes to the race. Let's remind ourselves of what tomorrow will look like. Here is your schedule for race day here in Japan. Pre-race show at 12:50. Make sure you join us. We'll be getting you up to speed with everything you need to know before we go racing for the Japanese Grand Prix, which kicks off at 2 p.m. local time. And then stick with us and we will have the post-race show for you straight after the podium celebrations. And we will be discussing all of the stories from the Grand Prix. Right, let's look ahead to that race tomorrow, shall we? Kimi Antonelli on pole, Mercedes front row lockout. Jacques, what will you be keeping an eye out for?
Well, you know, Antonelli is on a high, he's on a roll. He's got that energy, that momentum. We've seen that he's very good. He sees situations when they were available. Now, will he stay up there? That's what's very difficult. Like we've seen Max in the past, when he's up there, he stays the whole year. We've seen Lewis, he goes up and down and up and down. That affects a season. And we've seen last year, you can be leading, the championship can be yours, and suddenly it can click and it all goes wrong. So wait and see. Right now he's on the right trajectory.
And Alex, what about you? Who are you keeping an eye out for, especially in that top 10, not just that top row?
Antonelli's shown he can lead a race from lights to flag. I'm looking for Leclerc, of course, because he is the cat amongst the pigeons. And I'm looking for George Russell, because I'm interested to see when the tough battle between these two begins in this season. If they're going to have the dominant car, if they're going to streak away in terms of points at Mercedes, all of a sudden George is going to look across that front row and recognise that Kimi is pretty early on in the season going to be adversary number one. So when does that start to play out? But I'm looking forward to a 53
You know what will be interesting to see how it goes up there, because it won't be a battle on who's quicker. It's how they will react to the situation. It will all be in the head, and that will be so interesting to see.
I actually can't wait to see how that potential mental battle between the Mercedes drivers unfolds, as they have such a strong car. But as you said, George would have been thinking it would have been his for this year. Let's also get a word on one of the other drivers in the top 10, Pierre Gasly, who we haven't yet mentioned. P7 for him. Really solid performance. Teammate Colapinto down in P15. Pierre's seeming very comfortable in the car.
Super comfortable, yeah. And to be honest, it is a good performance for Pierre. I wasn't expecting to see him that high up. Alpine hadn't hit my radar, certainly throughout the weekend. They've got the Mercedes power unit, which will keep them efficient through the race. It definitely seems to come into its own on race pace. So we know he can drive a race. Let's see what he can do.
And in terms of Ferrari, let's jump back up that top 10 a little bit. We were talking about battling between teammates, George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Two drivers that we saw doing it fantastically last time out was Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. Do you think they would have learned anything from those battles last time out? Will we see any more of that if they're able to get close to each other this time around?
I think that Lewis has learned that Leclerc will not play the team game, but will play the Leclerc game. That was obvious last race, and Ferrari cannot, or Vassar cannot control the two drivers. Lewis was not expecting that, but he fought hard, he fought well, and he ended up beating Leclerc. That was a good see, but yeah, Leclerc doesn't want to finish behind Lewis. Lewis doesn't want to finish behind Leclerc. Even more, it's more important to them than actually winning.
For Piastri and Leclerc on that second row, the battle from the hairpin down to Spoon and then down to 130R is what's going to keep them in the motor race. They need to just keep Mercedes engaged in a battle, because we've seen so much that if you do get somebody to use their energy in the wrong way, then actually you can keep a race going for quite a long time. Hello, Mr. Lindblad.
Hello, Arvid. Thank you so much for joining us. Right, I said that he was going to be joining us soon, and here he is. P10 in that qualifying session. Well done. How are you feeling after that?
I'm very happy. I mean, it's not been an easy week. After all the issues in missing all of P2, quite a chunk of P3 as well. I had quite low expectations coming into the session, because it's not an easy track when you're down on mileage. It's so much about confidence, as you'll know. It's really hard to just sort of switch it on when you don't have that bank of laps. So I'm very, very grateful to the team, because they gave me a car I had confidence in. But then I'm also, proud of myself, because I think the job I did in Q2 was really mega, and yeah, just very happy to scrape it into Q3, because I think we were right on the edge of it.
Looking forward to the race. Did you get enough of a race run in to get a feel for where you're at? Are you going to be able to stay up there and grab some points, maybe?
I mean, I've done no long running because of all the issues.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be looking at the data, trying to learn as much as I can. We'll be coming up with a strategy tonight to try to plan for the race as best as we can for tomorrow. But we've had good starts, so I'm just going to focus on nailing my procedure and then getting stuck in on lap one. I've had a bit of fun the last few races, so I'm going to take every opportunity I can get on lap one, and then then we'll try and do as best as we can, and for sure the goal is points.
Well, very impressive, because we call this a driver's track. You have no experience here. Your teammate race here in Super Formula here in Japan, so he knows this track, and you actually edged him. But we've seen also a lot of drivers sometimes using the brakes, others using the battery regen to slow down. Is that what's complicating this particular track compared to other tracks we've had so far?
It's not as bad, the energy here. I think Melbourne was the worst for that, and you know the way we were having to drive. And then also being completely honest, because we don't have the most aerodynamic car, we're slower in the corners, so we have more time off throttle, so we have more energy. So it is actually, the energy stuff is a bigger problem for the faster teams because they go faster in the corners. So yes, it is, you know, you need to be smart, it is a lot we're talking about. So, you know, compared to last year, we're talking a lot about, or at least I'm thinking a lot, how can I be efficient, you know? Not just driving the corner, braking as late as you can, going as early as you can on throttle, because that's not efficient. Can you brake a tiny bit earlier, carry a little bit more minimum, a little bit later on throttle, but the lap time's the same, but you spend more time off throttle. So for sure we're thinking about it, but it's not been a big thing this week, and yeah, it's not been too bad for us. So, you know, I'm going out in quali and I am sending it. I'm not thinking too much about the battery.
That's what we like to hear. Arvid, thank you so much for joining us to chat. We appreciate it, and go well tomorrow.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Right, well, that is it from us here in the paddock. Alex, Jack, thank you very much for joining me to debrief all of that. What a qualifying session that was. Kimi Antonelli taking back-to-back pole positions. Mercedes front row lockout once again, but we have the McLarens, we have the Ferraris up in the mix too. Tomorrow promises to be an exciting one. Make sure you join us for the pre-race show here on F1 TV and Apple TV. We can't wait to be back with you tomorrow, but for now, that's all. Take care.
From Suzuka, Japan, it is time for Formula One qualifying with 22 of the best drivers in the world. Today, can anyone interrupt the Mercedes march? They've topped every important session in 2026. Will it be Russell versus Antonelli once again, or will we see another shock lap from the blue, like we did 1 year ago? It's attacking laps at this magnificent circuit. Suzuka International Racing Course. The drivers are about to face one of the ultimate tests on Earth behind the wheel. It is qualifying to set the grid for the Japanese Grand Prix of 2026. The last 4 winners in a row, Max Verstappen, the only driver ever to win 4 consecutive Grand Prix here, but he is on the back foot. They'll all be using the C3, the C2 and the C1 tyres. Through the medium we go to take you to the pictures of the Great Wheel, and it is a great motor racing circuit for a day like this one. Round 3, qualifying, low fuel, packed grandstands, and another clear day. The track temperature is 32 degrees, the air temperature is 16. And in the commentary box, we're looking forward to this one. I'm Alex Shakes, alongside me, former Renault Formula One driver, a man who loved a lap around Suzuka, Jolyon Palmer.
Who doesn't? It's a great circuit. You mentioned 22 of the best drivers in the world, but also one of the best tracks for our viewing pleasure coming up. Qualifying hour, always a thrill. It's one of those circuits where you just have to feel it out. There's no obvious references, especially in the first half of the lap. You're sweeping through the S's, and it's all just on feel and grip and just seat of your pants stuff for most of the lap. Then there's confidence through the middle part as well. Degner, Spoon, some fast approaches into double apex corners, and then you've got the run to the final chicane. Can you get it stopped? Can you ride the curbs as best you can without unsettling the car and get on the gas to the line? It's a real thrill driving around here, and I'm looking forward to seeing what these cars can do. It's peachy conditions as well. Not too hot, 16 degrees. As you can see, clear skies, but also the wind has died down significantly.
Yesterday in free practice, Oscar Piastri was top of the timing page. Mercedes have reasserted their dominance earlier on in FP3. Kimi Antonelli, 0.2 of a second ahead of the championship leader. That's George Russell, who goes into this one with a 4-point margin. It's for you on the left-hand side of your screen. Third is Charles Leclerc, 1 point ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Oliver Behrman has been a standout performer. He's 5th going into this one. Lando Norris has lost track time this weekend. He's P6 in his attempt to retain the title. Max Verstappen has been a frustrated figure. He was bemoaning fundamentals of the car, not minor tweaks, fundamentals lacking in that Red Bull at the moment.
Yeah, he's not enjoying his Formula One life right now. Red Bull tumbling down the pecking order. Max not thriving, let's say, in this era of car either. The different techniques, the different style of racing, and he has always been fantastic around this circuit though, so he will hope that there's some Max magic in there to pull out of the bag when we get to Q3, assuming both Red Bulls do get to Q3, because it's not been easy. As you mentioned, China was difficult. The team lacking balance, but they're just lacking downforce, and they've arrived here with an upgrade package. New side pods, sloped down, more filtered to the rear end, new floor trims as well, and they seem happy enough with what they're doing, but they're still suffering from a lack of downforce and a lack of balance, which Max has been particularly struggling with. So setup changes have been going on in the last couple of hours, and we will see if they can be more competitive. And Isaac Hadjar looks like the Red Bull driver more likely to be struggling to make it into Q3. The midfield is tight as ever, and as Liam Lawson heads out, he will be one of those drivers looking to pit maybe the Red Bull team to get into the top 10.
Expecting this to be a very interesting qualifying hour, and it's underway with a green light at the end of the pit lane. A special livery for Racing Bulls for the Japanese Grand Prix, a special race for Honda on home soil with Aston Martin. Their first weekend as collaborators together, plenty of green caps in the grandstand. One of the wonderful things about this circuit and about this crowd is that there is support for absolutely everyone who's taking to the circuit.
Just actually looking at the stands as we see Lawson on an outlap, And they are packed, aren't they, around this place, all the way through the S's. The crowd on either side is one of the best attended on the calendar. You can see up on the banks there as the track crosses over itself in this figure of 8 layout. They're in for quite a treat coming up. Surprised quite how many cars have gone out straight on the green. Usually you get the runners that are not completely confident of making it through. They go out right on the green of Q1. That gives them the chance to maybe do 3 sets of tyres if they're really quick and throw everything at this. But we've also got the Racing Bulls out there who have looked a little bit more comfortable. We've also been joined by the 2 Haas cars, Ocon and Behrman, out there as well. And aside from that, it is your typical Q1 Exeters, the Aston Martins, the Cadillacs, and the Williams out on circuit.
That's the 130R, wonderful sound through there. A reminder for you, 6 cars eliminated in Q1 and Q2. There is an extra minute for Q3. That's the change to the rules for this season. Minor changes, all thanks to the new team on the grid, which is Cadillac. They're about 3 seconds off the pace earlier on.
So Lawson winding one up here with the typical really slow run to the line out of the final corner to make sure he's got enough energy for a completely topped battery as he heads into this lap. So it's not the easiest for deployment around here, but you get a chance to recharge on part throttle all the way through this first sector as you are just blending through the throttle, occasionally having a little stab of full right foot. And then you get to this moment, and now we're starting to get to the faster corners and a few more areas where they're going to need to harvest more. So out of the Degners, riding the curbs, very easy to spit the car off on either one of those 2 parts. If you get it wrong at the first, you're likely to end in the barriers at the second. Little hint of a lock-up for Lawson, who's going to be the first driver here to figure out where the grip's at in qualifying. And this is the key areas now where you're stretching your legs and deployment's going to become a thing. So you can see the red lights blinking at the back as Lawson fights the car in towards Spoon. But he's having to harvest a little bit at that moment, and these stretches are much harder. Down towards 130R, active aero in place, so the rear wing opens, the front wing drops down. There we go, it opens, it pops up again. And now they're harvesting down towards the final chicane, where you've still got to find the brakes, and it's so easy to mess the lap up right at the end, either on the brakes or on the traction, but it's neat enough for Liam Lawson.
Taking that tight line that you see when they are pushing at the very end, Ollie Behrman scraped the paint off the wall, pushing his way to Q3 there 1 year ago. Lindblad, first visit to Suzuka, and he's on the first push lap gone a 1/10.5 quicker than his experienced teammate. Lance Stroll has gone over the line 2.7 seconds behind the benchmark set by Lindblad. Alonso has gone ahead of Stroll. It's been that way all the way back to Silverstone last year, a long time ago, that Fernando Alonso has consistently been the lead Aston Martin, year before rather. He's been the lead Aston Martin when it comes to Grand Prix qualifying.
He's heading towards 2 years of out-qualifying Lance Stroll.
Yeah.
It's exceptional.
For a 44-year-old who was the winner of the Grand Prix here 20 years ago.
2 years of out-qualifying your teammate. You think in one of those efforts you might make a mistake, you might just have traffic, you might have something go wrong, yet he is relentlessly ahead of his teammate, and the first lap have put more than half a second between the 2 Aston Martins as well. The McLarens out on circuit, and well, Lando Norris has made it out at the start of the session for almost the only time this weekend. He's been really plagued with reliability issues. Part throttle. There we go. Now we launch it with Oscar Piastri starting his first time lap. Top battery is depleting and depleting. As Oscar blends out, it does have a little bit of a clip in towards the first corner, and let's hopefully ride on board through this, because this is a buzz now through turn 3. Feather downshift. Short shift to 6th, and then picking 7th pretty quickly as the MG UK kicks in and we head towards the Degners. Looked really sedate, and he's just knocked out the fastest first sector by half a second.
By a mile. Not sedate on the exit of the second Degner. Live speeds for you as he makes his way into the hairpin. The Australian driver hoping tomorrow to start his first Grand Prix since December the 7th. into the wall on the reconnaissance lap in Melbourne, was not able to take the starting grid in China, and hoping to continue what has been, because of the issues, because of the loss of track time for his teammate Lando Norris, a really strong weekend for Piastri, who has topped a session up against the Mercs yesterday and looked good battling Charles Leclerc for what could be the second row later on. He's the second up on Esteban Ocon.
Yeah, McLaren hoping to fight it with Ferrari and out-qualify them to give themselves the shot at mixing it with the Mercedes at the start of the race tomorrow. We're expecting the Mercedes to be in an intra-team battle for pole position once again. Piastri comes through and puts a reasonable benchmark down then for a top team, a 30.4. Mercedes were considerably quicker than that, well into the lower reach of the 29s earlier on, but that will come to these drivers as well as the track grips up. Norris through 2/10 down. We mentioned before, catching up on a lot of mileage. ERS, battery issues for him earlier on. He's had hydraulic problems as well through the weekend, and 2/10 down is a decent start point.
Over the line comes Lewis Hamilton to split the McLarens. Hamilton wearing a white crash helmet for the Japanese Grand Prix weekend, a race he's won 4 times in his Formula One career. Charles Leclerc round the final corner now, that tight line that we've become used to, and a tidy first effort, 0.3 of a second ahead of Oscar Piastri, and it's a 1:30.0. It is Leclerc, Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, then Bortoleto ahead of Hülkenberg, Ocon, Lindblad, and Alex Albon to the Mercedes pair. And our most recent Grand Prix winner, heading into turn number 1, Kimi Antonelli, the 116th winner in World Championship history, last time out in China.
It's flat out through one, just using the super clip as basically a braking tool then into the first corner, and he picks a downshift through there. So you can see him wrestling with the car a little bit more than Piastri was in this first sector as well. Hustling through a little bit more on the what appears to be the limit of grip. Leclerc's done the fastest first sector of anyone in the Ferrari. That car is still very quick through the corners, but missing on the straights, the Ferrari, compared to the Mercedes power units in the back of this car and Piastri's McLaren. Almost ran through the gravel, didn't he, in the exit of Degner 2. Will hug the inside and sweep around the Audi. That was Bortoleto there that we've gone past as we head towards Spoon. Another car in front. So a little bit of traffic as Fernando Alonso jumps out of the way there.
Kimi Antonelli with 1 Grand Prix pole position. He's been on the front row on 3 occasions, being compared to the driver who's currently in 16th place. Not a great early effort for Oliver Behrman, who's been very comfortable this year in Formula One and made Q3 here 1 year ago. Antonelli goes over the line and goes fastest of anyone so far by 0.04 of a second. George Russell with the next effort. He's out of the 130 arc into the triangle chicane at the end of the lap, and then deploying all the power, the fearsome power from that Mercedes. And he comes across the line and he's 5th fastest, 0.5 second adrift of his teammate's effort.
Yeah, not particularly happy with the brakes on that opening lap, George Russell. So he's well down, but safely enough through in Q1. And the field spread means that the top teams generally have an easier time. I am looking through and seeing that Bortoleto's done a great job. The 2 Red Bulls up in 6th and 8th. Hadjar slightly ahead of Verstappen actually on that first flyer as well. Audi's looking good. You can see Hülkenberg picture-in-picture on another flying lap, and actually they're all 7/10 away to the top 10, so it is a little bit closer right now. I feel Mercedes have got a bit more in the locker to lay down as we get through this qualifying. A lot of curb and a small slide between the apexes of the chicane for Norris.
Yeah, Norris going again purely because he's on the back foot, because the amount of time lost with mechanical issues so far this weekend. There's an ERS issue for him earlier on, cost him 40 minutes of the final practice session. It's Antonelli, Leclerc, Piastri, Norris, and now 5th for Nico Hülkenberg, who seems to have a great feel behind the wheel in the first Audi visit to Suzuka.